Welcome to Echoes and Roots. I'm Sabine, and I guide you back to nature, to your inner wisdom, and our ancestral ways of living in harmony with Mother Earth and the cosmos. Hello, and welcome to this podcast on the science of our master builders of Neolithic buildings as well as later epochs, and how they build together with the landscape, our sacred waters and mountains. And we're going to talk a lot today about Ireland and the ancient sites and the mythology and the stories connected to Ireland, specifically about the Brunnerboyne monuments, Newgrange. Then we're going to cover the Book of Kells. We're going to cover the saints of Ireland. We're going to talk about the many different holy wells there. We're going to talk about the Book of Kells, the King Arthur timeline as well. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot covered in this episode, so enjoy. And because we are talking today specifically primarily about the goddess, about Mother Earth and her sacred waters and her sacred valleys and mountains, I invite you first to take a moment for all of us to come to ourselves, and you can put your hands just on your heart, on your legs, just so you connect to your body and you feel your body. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment if you can, if you're not driving, and connecting to the breath. Connecting to your heart, connecting to your lower abdomen, what we call the Hara, lower dantian in Chinese medicine. Guiding the breath slowly down here. And now I invite you to remember a time where you sat by a beautiful river, a creek, a well, and you felt the water. You felt its aliveness, its purity, the sunlight shining on it, the magic of it. You felt how it's flowing. And now come into your body and connect to the waters within you. How you have rivers, creeks, marshlands, springs, holy wells, within you. And how those waters within you give life, connect you to Mother Earth, connect you to the natural cycles, connect you to the flow of life, how they nourish every tissue within you, how they allow your emotions to flow, how they carry the energy within you, the oxygen, the breath of life, how they connect you not just to the waters of earth but also to the waters of the universe, the waters of creation, and the waters in the womb of the mother, the place you come from. We are born out of water and we return to water. And so with this, I want to start. And today I'm going to tell you a story. It's the story of how these incredible monuments called the Brunei Boyne, Newgrange in Ireland. It's a world famous Neolithic monument. And it's not just Newgrange, it's actually a triple. Chambard Cairns, so there is no and thou, and I'm already apologizing for my pronunciation of Irish names, because obviously I'm not Irish, but yeah. And these monuments are absolutely incredible in their science and in what they do and what they accomplished back then. And they're thousands of years old, and they remind us of a time when we were building with the landscape, and we were building for Mother Earth and for the landscape. Now, when I came, it was my dream for years to come to Newgrange. Ever since I went to Malta, I just knew I had to come to Newgrange. And when I came there, and I speak, like I telepathically connect to the land, and I just listen, I see what the land wants to tell me. And the first thing the land told me, that this is all about the river, the Boyne, the valley. That these monuments were built in honor and to work with the Boyne River. And I invite you, when you come to the Brunei Boyne monuments, and you're going to walk before you go on the bus to Newgrange, and you're going to walk over the river, over the Boyne, and I want you to really deeply connect. It's a very magical valley that these monuments are built into, and it's the rivers, all the waters actually that I encountered in Ireland are so magical. It's because the Divine Mother, the Mother, there is something of her in Ireland, like a piece of her magic, a piece of her, a coating of her. It's like, it's something very, very special, a part of her heart in a way that is in Ireland, and that is just can be felt specifically through the waters. And so the river told me, it's all about me. And I was like, and I love this because the river told me then, after I went to Newgrange, it's like, I want you to go to where I originate, where my well is, where the River Boyne originates. And I went there. It's a small village called Carberry. The story that I'm telling you now, I only discovered later. So later I listened to some really incredible podcasts on the mythology of that river, the mythology of the stories of the gods in Ireland. And I'm going to link it in the show notes because it's a really enjoyable mythology, very well researched, of all the different places in Ireland and different stories, and it's so magical. Ireland is so magical. And so I present you the story now, but the river told me herself in so many ways. I knew she's sacred. There's something so special about her, and I love when I found the story. So the River Boyne, actually, she's named after a goddess, and originally all the rivers in Ireland were named after goddesses. Now later they were changed to names like Black Water, which is really is an insult to the feminine, but originally they were all named after the goddess. And what is really interesting in nature, we have masculine and feminine energy presented, incarnated, consciousness incarnated. And what I found so interesting when I was in Hawaii, Kauai, is that the indigenous civilization there regarded parts of the ocean as masculine, but the wells, the rivers, the creeks on land were regarded as very feminine. So women would always engage a lot with those on land rivers, and then men would go out to the deep sea. It's very interesting. Either way, so the name, the Boyne, goes back to a goddess called Boan. And Boan, she is part of the lineage of the Tuatha Dé Danann. Now, if you know a little bit of Irish mythology, you have heard about the Tuatha, and I've been researching into them and feeling into them for a long time. I haven't come to a conclusion. Who is this? It's a race. It's a magical race. It's a master builder race. It's a race of ancient gods there, and there is part of like what people say about them that I don't resonate. But either way, she's part of, and I like to call him just the Tuatha because I don't resonate with the Danann. I don't resonate with that association made for them. Now, the Tuatha, they tell a story, and the whole river tells a story of something that's actually really true. And this is that consciousness levels incarnate into nature, into Mother Earth. We literally have, we call them god and goddesses, but it's literally its consciousness level from beyond our, not from beyond, but we are here. We always say we are on a third dimensional planet, and this is true, but actually we are living in a 15-dimensional time matrix, and all the dimensions are actually also here on Earth. So we have consciousness levels from the higher dimensions that are incarnated here on Earth, because it's as above, so below. Our body, actually also within our body, we have literally the absolute unity, the God consciousness, the Divine Mother, the Divine Father, the merging of the feminine masculine. We have it in our body too. We have these sacred, the holy waters I'm talking about today, the gods and the goddesses, as we say them, or refer to them. They're within us, and so they are on Earth. So there is actually never a moment where we need to escape from Earth, or where we need to, like, ascension isn't that we're going away from this planet. Ascension really is us recognizing the sacredness and the consciousness that is here. And so we have the Divine Mother has her sons and her daughters, and they are incarnated into nature structures. So we have, there's mountains, and wow, some of the mountains, it's like they are goddess mountains where literally they are birth portals. So where souls come in and out of Earth through these mountains. And imagine the consciousness level of that mountain that can facilitate the coming in and the exiting of souls. It's so incredible. Then we also have masculine energies, consciousness, and also the unity consciousness incarnated in mountains. Mountains have these beams of energy that literally activate certain chakras. And we have incredible consciousness incarnated in trees also. Oh my God, the trees in Ireland. Some of them, so Ireland used to be covered, 80% was covered by trees. Now we are down currently to 11%, which is one of the lowest tree coverage in Europe. But there are still some parks where you find the ancients. And when I talk about the ancients in Ireland, I'm talking about trees that have the size of like these massive trees in the Pacific Northwest in the US, like the redwoods there. You can't believe there's some trees in Ireland where I was just like, I couldn't believe it. You're literally meeting, and the spirits in the trees in Ireland, because everything is conscious, everything is soul, everything is spirit. And the souls of those trees are really like, they're different than in many other places I've seen. And I love to also talk and telepathically talk to trees, and and some of the trees, they were really like, you have to actually have some respect. Like they are very, they guard a lot of sacred lands, and they are very wise elders, and they're not to be fooled with. It's like, it's different than speaking, like telepathically communicating to a tree in a park in Amsterdam. The queen arrives for this podcast. The goddess, the other goddess apart from me, in this home, my cat. I love when she comes for the podcast, but. So yes, so we have this very high consciousness from like really the God field incarnated in our trees, in our mountains, and of course in the water, in our sacred waters, the underground waters as well as the rivers. So now we come to the story of Born. So Born, she's a goddess among the Tuatha Dé Danann. There's a story that one day she goes to the well. This is before the river Boyne was created. There is the well, and this is the well that is supposedly in Carberry. Now, it's actually like the beginning of... Oh my God. the goddess is drinking the cat from my water. She must be very thirsty. It's a very hot day here. Well, yeah, no more water for me now during this podcast. Yeah. Either way. Where was I? I was at the well. So there is this there is this holy well, and it's called the Well of Skellig, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong. But it's the well of wisdom. And this well, supposedly in mythology, was in the other world. And around this world were 9 hazelnut trees. Now becoming again, I told you, like, the consciousness incarnated in trees, it's just beyond as well. Like, there is just, trees are record keepers, trees are portals as well to other worlds, the ancestors. Trees are magnificent beyond anything. Now, around the well were 9 hazelnut trees, and from these trees fell the hazelnuts into the water, and the hazelnuts were the wisdom of the universe, the all-knowing. And then in the well was salmon swimming, and the salmon ate these hazelnuts and became like all-knowing, knew all truth. Now, when the goddess one day comes to the well, and the story goes that she's married to the main god of the Tuatha, and so there's two different accounts of the story. In one of the stories, her husband had forbidden her to go to the well, but she disobeys him. A woman, like, the feminine energy is so magnificent. The masculine is actually really here. When you have to feel these energies. This is about feeling within you the masculine and feminine, and then you know that the masculine is here in service to the feminine. It's here in awe of the feminine. And a woman, like the feminine energy, she is free. She is really free in many ways, free to acquire all wisdom she wants, free to acquire, to become what she wants, to create what she wants. And she is like, when you think, oh my God, have you seen like the goddess Pele, like in Hawaii? I think it's on a main island, like she's having all these volcanic eruptions right now, and she's a woman too. She's like so powerful, so passionate. She's like, oh my God, I love to watch her. I'm like, wow, this is like passion, this woman. And so, yeah. So anyway, so in that story, her husband forbids her to go, but of course she goes, right? Like, and I also sometimes wonder, in these stories, we always get this account that there is this fallout between man and women, and the husband not treating the woman well, the woman not treating the husband, whatever. But was it actually really true? If there really were this race of like highly evolved druids, the Tuatha, maybe the story was actually totally different. Maybe her husband was actually really supportive of her, but it wouldn't, because the story was written in the medieval times where we already had a lot of patriarchy, so the story has some patriarchal slant. So anyway, in that story, she goes to the well. There's some guardians of the well, but she doesn't care. She wants to connect to the well. In the other account of the story, she goes to the well not because her husband has forbidden her, but because she has committed adultery and now needs to wash off her sins. And this is what happens always to women in history. Either women are totally written out of history, so many, or they are made into sinners committing adultery, or it's like something they in some ways are like not treated well by the husband, or if they actually, and this story comes back. This is going to be a long podcast, so there's a lot of stories in this, of Saint Bridget. We have to talk about her as well. And in her story, the goddess Bridget, the Saint Bridget, all of a sudden has to become a nun to be close to God. Like, the woman can only be holy if she's a virgin. And actually, when you go back to Boann and what she's later becoming, no, she is the absolute master creatress goddess, and she is married. And actually, in divine union, you can reach such high levels together. Consciousness, awareness of union with God, of like really becoming these incredible creators together. So I think a lot of these stories actually don't want to tell us the truth of what real true love and real divine union can achieve on this planet positively. So either way, but we are back at the well. She's going to the well, no matter what the background story is here. And now what is she doing? She kind of wants to connect to the wisdom of the well, and she walks 3 times anti-clockwise around the well. And I find this really interesting because actually, in order to activate these ancient sacred sites, standing stones, stone circles, other sacred sites, you have to walk around them anti-clockwise. That's activating the energy of the underground water vortex that usually these sites are built on. Like, this is incredible. So the story is she's working anti-clockwise, and then, well, what happens, and the well takes her over, and she actually becomes the river boy. And she turns into this river that was then regarded as giving birth to the most fertile land. The river Boyne was regarded as the Nile of the ancient times. And we do know about the Nile in ancient Egypt, like how fertile, how like life-giving, how creative that energy was. And it wasn't just regarded as the river Nile. She was now out of a sudden regarded as the Milky Way. The river Boyne, she, the goddess, is also connected to the Milky Way. And this is absolutely incredible, to like how we travel via the stars when we come in and come out, and how our soul evolution, and so she becomes this incredible fertile land. And she's also connected to she gets then the other name where, as she's turning into the river, the white cow. And the cow is associated in many stories with fertility, with goddesses. We have Hathor, we have many other goddesses that are associated with the cow. Also Bridget later, who is coming from the same family of the Tuatha, is also associated with the cow. There's something very special about the cow, her frequency, about a cow's milk, about even butter. In Ireland specifically, is something very sacred about butter. Is considered the gold. So there's a lot to the story. Now, so she turns into this really fertile valley. Think of what the Nile Valley was, extremely fertile. And in this valley, consciousness is out of a sudden born. Civilizations are born that have an extremely high consciousness. Think back again of Egypt, of what the civilizations that the river Nile birthed. And here we have an island, the river Boyne, and the civilization she birthed. She's birthing the civilization that built the Brunner Boyne in her valley. The Brunner Boyne monuments, Newgrange, No, and Thou. And these monuments, so we have to talk about these monuments now, what they do, because they are just so magnificent. This is the kind of similar technology to pyramids, but really working with the land and in honor to the land. And now human comes in. So we have incarnated the mother goddess, the woman, the creatress. But creation does not happen without the masculine. That is the beauty of the masculine. Creation needs masculine. And I was talking with a friend of mine about who is actually, because we know Mother Earth is feminine, but who is her masculine counterpart? And I mean, I do know there is parallel Earth, which is the polarized version of Earth, so magnetic polarized. So it is in our other parallel Vecca, it is the masculine counterpart. But here, she obviously has a masculine counterpart in our solar system as well. And we can talk about who is that now. What has that to do with the sun potentially? We don't know. But on Earth, who is a masculine counterpart? And to me personally, I always felt her masculine counterpart is us, is a human. I'm saying this so many times. We are created as a guardian race, as to working with her, and we are so creative. And what does humans do? So when we want to support this fertile energy of her, humans build. We build. What does a masculine build do? It builds. It was like a master builder. So we build these monuments, these chambered cairns that we have in the Brunner Boyne Valley. And it's a trinity because we have to do here with the triple goddess energy. So the Boyne itself isn't necessarily, in the story, isn't connected to the triple goddess, but later other figures connected to Ireland, like Bridget, are connected to the triple goddess. And you see the triple spirals everywhere in Newgrange, and that also has, and especially now is incredible, and that has to do also with the god field, with the frequencies of the God field that these monuments are enforcing and bringing down as well, because the God field is the 13th, 14th, 15th dimension. This is a trinity field of sound. Sound creates light and matter. And so these monuments are sound resonant chambers that are built on water vortexes. So you have sacred water crossings, underground waters that are also connected to the river Boyne. You have the river Boyne as the goddess herself. Crossings creating a vortex. You build, you take stones, you build on top of that, you create electromagnetism, you create an electric field, and then through sound, you spread this out in the valley, and depending on the quality of the underground water vortex, you spread this. And very often this was around fertility. This was around, and when you think of the river Boyne, this has a lot to do with fertility, but also with healing. And healing for the land, but for everything around, has to do with the balance. And you see on the outside, especially of, now you have a lot of engravings on the stones. Now this is my interpretations from just being with the stones, what this is. And in my interpretations, these symbols and these engravings are music notes, and they create very specific it's not an orchestra, it's kind of like an orchestra, but very specific sounds when you make inside, also because the druid would be inside of these chambers, and you create these sounds. And then literally I saw this is something that I saw, it's like the frequency comes out, it goes through the stones, and the stones light up, because then you also, again, you have the winter solstice alignment with Newgrange, with No, you have the equinox alignment, and Tao, that's a third one in Trinity, has the winter sunset setting alignment, winter solstice. But it's literally, it's lighting up, and it's creating all these, like, sound creates light, right? And then creates matter, and then it goes into the water and in the underground, and it just creates this massive field of, it's spreading. So you already have, the fertility, you have the goddess there, the river, but it's spreading its energy out wider, so it can be of benefit to all the fields around, to the crops, to the people. It's healing energy as well. And you have many smaller chambered cairns around where you could actually sit in for healing, I think, once the sound spreads around. It's just like, it's so magnificent. But it's really, it's like the masculine, it's us humans who build with this sacred valley, like, you not using the energy, but amplifying the energy, and also making sure that the river stays very high consciousness, stays clean, stays drinkable, right? This is, we once drank from all of our rivers and all of our wells and water sources. We bathed in them. We had so many wells open for blessings, for bathing, for feeling the divine, for feeling the mother, and for feeling unity. And this is, building these monuments was to ensure that this consciousness level stays. And we know that with they know through DNA testing that that was a very specific civilization that built them, and then something happened around, they think around 2000 BC, where they just disappeared. There was maybe a mini ice age or something, but this time ended. But it was really a time of prosperity. And actually in the land, in Ireland, later on, there was such a suppression of the mother energy, of the goddess energy. And you see the extreme violence coming out of the fight between the Protestant and Catholic Church, and poverty. But actually the land itself has the energy of such richness, of such abundance. And it is just us remembering again the science, how our ancestors used to work with the land and honor the land. Really, they were honoring the goddess by building this. They were literally it was an honor to the river, an honor to the goddess. And I just, it's so amazing. It's so beautiful. And think back of the well. That was the well of knowledge, and it was coming from another world where the river Boyne comes out of. So it's also about the access to all knowledge, to all knowing, to the secrets of the universe. And we once knew this. We knew like the science of the universe. We knew the story of ourselves as humans, the story where we come from, the story we're going. Like, we knew how we fit in. Like, these were astronomers as well. We knew how we fit in the wider planetary evolutional cycles. It's so incredible. I mean, what they created and what she created, what she gave birth to. And then it's us humans, man, who acted up on it and created, yeah, such beauty. Now, when you go there, I highly invite you, walk barefoot on the land to feel these monuments. Because we constantly are in exchange with the land through the magnetism, through our bare feet. And this is how we remember the sacredness of the river Boyne, and also connect to the river. When you go, think of that this is about the valley. This is about the river itself. This is about the sacred well that this river comes out from, the well of knowledge, coming from another world, from the world of the all-knowing, and the world of really high consciousness levels. It's just so incredible. And then, so you're going to visit, when you visit the Brunner Boyne Village, you have the bus that's driving you to Newgrange and to Now. Now, I said it's a trinity. The three main, the biggest chambered cans are the trinity, because they're the trinity of the goddess and her music that they were creating, but also the trinity of the god field, of the god sound field. And so the third one is Tao. I'm sure I'm not saying this correctly, though. And you can actually walk to this one. So it's not part of the visiting, but you can have the bus drop you on where you go up. And it's not excavated, but it's a really nice energy. You're going to be alone there. And you can just be with the place. And there's a really nice tree that's, because it's not excavated, that's growing on top of it. Yeah, it's a really nice piece of land. And then you can walk back, and if you're tired, you can have the bus pick you up again. Like, once you come to the junction where the bus goes again, the bus picks you up. And the people that are working there are super nice. Even though, of course, none of us knows really the truth of these monuments, and that's why I invite you to just go, feel, listen to the land, see what comes up for you. We're all here to pick the truth together, right? To remember, even what I'm saying to you now, it's like, it's hopefully part of the truth, but it's, of course, it's not the full story, and it's also part of my interpretation, what I pick up from the land. But it's inviting you, for you to create a relationship with these places, and to remember if you just feel the sacredness of the river. And you can go, there's also walks in other places and cycling paths where you can really experience the river. If you go to Carberry, the well itself is now in private land. It's also a bit difficult, but you can still feel into the energy of that. It's a tiny, like, 5-house village kind of thing. You can still feel into energy where this holy well from the other world is actually from. And yeah, it's beautiful. And now we're gonna jump forward a little bit. No, first we're gonna need to talk about another sacred place that is also connected. So we have the river, and there is other very sacred places in Ireland that are connected to the story of the goddess Buan, to her river, the Boyne, and to this well, the well of knowledge. Oh my God, I just love it because there's so much juice in here. So first and foremost, we have also, not far from the Brunner Boyne monuments, we have the Hill of Tara. Now, the Hill of Tara is that hill where kings were crowned. This is where the high kings of Ireland, this was their sacred place. And again, what I love about the Mother Earth and connecting with her, like, I mean, if I can, I go to the museum after. Like, I first just be with the land and see what I can pick up, because I want to see, like, because usually I get a confirmation in the museum that, like, part of what I pick up is, like, there, because the museums, of course, they're not going to have the full story. They have, like, also our interpretation from modern day, but there is still a lot of truth in these museums. And so when I was at the Hill of Tara, like the line told me very specific way how you walk here, and it showed me all the processions and the kings, and then I go into the museum, and the museum it's like, oh yeah, kings were crowned because they walked in a very specific way on that hill in the procession, and there was a structure about all of this, and I was like, oh yeah, she already told me. And I love that. And I think I'm so curious, when you go to a space, what you're gonna pick up. And there's also always personal stories of us that these places bring up. And yeah, so the Hill of Tara, again, we have holy wells, 6 holy wells. So again, first and foremost, we have a hill. So we have, again, this energy beam that's already activating chakras, and maybe activating all chakras on the Hill of Tara, obviously. Crowning, like, think of the king, think of the masculine energy, think of the crown chakra, but even like the solar plexus chakra, because masculine is very much also about this. And then we have the river Boyne, which is much more the sacral chakra, around the feminine, the fertility. And then we have these 6 holy wells around the Hill of Tara, and one is still very accessible now, and you can go there, and another one has been restored as well. And so yeah, it's again, it's these sacred waters everywhere. It's the mother, the divine mother that left an island in her sacred waters, actually everywhere in the world, everywhere, but also in specifically there, she has part of her heart, and it's amazing. And we have monuments around rivers to really amplify the sacredness of rivers across the world, specifically also Neolithic monuments, because these, yes, we have them, like the Neolithic monuments, like the stone circles, the standing stones, the chambered cairns, what is the other one called? I forgot now. Anyway, but we really think of them primarily about like Ireland and Great Britain and Brittany in France, but actually they are all around the world. You can find them. The highest concentration of them is actually in South Korea. 90,000 of these stone Neolithic monuments in South Korea. Unbelievable. You have them. There's a lot. Oh my God, I really want to go to the Caucasus Mountains. A lot around the Black Sea. You have them in Africa. You have them everywhere, really. India, like China, like all places, Japan. And in Africa, I was just researching into this. There is, this is so incredible. They have like on a stretch of like 20, how was it? I think it was 20,000 kilometers. It was very, very long. On a river again, you had like a massive amount of stone circles, like thousands. And you're like, wow, what is this again? It's working with the river energy. I love it. Yeah, but we are still in Ireland. We are still with the Divine Mother in Ireland. And we have to jump forward, because the river, the Boyne, the goddess, she didn't just create this Neolithic civilization there that just was incredible in their knowledge of the universe, of ancient science, of the science of life and of healing and fertility. No, the next timeline we have to jump to is early Christianity, because you would not believe what happened around the Boyne River there. And this all coincides with the King Arthur timeline, and we're going to come to King Arthur and his court. So when we're talking about early Christianity, we are now talking about the time where the Roman Empire really was in a decline. So starting like 300, so we had the Council of Nicaea, which that is 300 something. And unfortunately, at the Council of Nicaea, the absolutely incredible Law of One teachings of the original Bible was absolutely edited into the document we have today. And there's still a lot of really important stories in this document. And yeah, there's still a lot of really valuable stuff we can take out of the Bible, but a lot was also edited out. But we have the fall of the Roman Empire, and then we have the spread of Christianity. And before we had the early Druidic Christianity, which has a lot of still the Druid wisdom, the pagan wisdom, the original teachings of the Jesus mission, which were a lot around actually. Marahari, Mary Magdalene, she worked so much with the water. It was so much about Mother Earth. And that's the part I'm saying. It was really edited out the sacredness of our mother, of our planet, of the feminine, it together with the masculine, but yeah. So we have the early Christianity, and we have three main saints that really promoted Christianity in Ireland, which is Saint Bridget, Saint Patrick, and Saint Columba. And in Irish, now I'm gonna have another funny pronunciation. It is called something like Comsal, something like that. I studied the Irish, but it's fine. Even though I do love, people think when I go there, people think I'm, before they hear my accent, before they hear my German accent, they're like, you could be Irish, because I see all my freckles. Yeah, it's fun. So we have these three saints, and this all happened. So we have King Arthur born 559, and King Arthur, yeah, I'm going to come to him in Ireland, because it's of course very much associated to Great Britain, but this was a time where we have again a massive, we had the Yeshua, the Jesus mission, massive consciousness boost here, and then we have the King Arthur time, again a massive consciousness awakening in people in the land again, and that's why I'm saying this falls all in there. So King Arthur 559 born. Then we have Saint Bridget, just slightly before that, presumably born 451, die in 500 something. Saint Columba 521, and Saint Patrick goes a little bit earlier. He was really at the fall of the Roman Empire, 386 AD. Now, before we talk about the three saints, we have to talk about the founder, or the father of the main apostles. Now, in the 12 main apostles, that is Saint Finian. So Saint Finian, he was around exactly that time frame. He must have been born something 400, lived in the 500. So he founded Clonard Abbey and school. And where is this abbey? And this famous school that was basically the school for the main apostles. It is around the River Boyne. And so Saint Finian, very interesting character. So he also went to Wales, and Wales in the UK. Wales has a lot of important history related to that time, to King Arthur. In Wales, you have a very, oh my God, such a beautiful well, and related to a woman, a really important woman that was also part of that timeline. She had her own circle of other women, and I'm not getting to her name now, but Saint Winfried. I'm sure I pronounced this wrong too, but anyway, Saint Winfried, Wales. But we are still at Saint Finian, Irish guy, goes to Wales. Next stop, goes to Iona. Iona is the most sacred holy Druid site in the UK. It is where all the Druid mystery schools were. Iona is just, it's the bing 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 consciousness place. It's like, as you go to Iona, you get a couple of upgrades, like your DNA is going to be like, I really want to drink from my water, but now my cat already drank. I can't. So anyway, so it's like the DNA is oxalating because of what they did there. But so he goes to Iona, comes back to Ireland, finds his school and abbey close to the River Boyne, and who is he the teacher of? Saint Columba, one of the three main saints. And Saint Columba is the man that is associated with Iona and the Book of Kells, which was in Iona and in Kells in Ireland. And oh my God, we have to talk about the Book of Kells because that book, hallelujah. But we are not done with Saint Finian, because he is in history accredited for something else that is just absolutely incredible. And this falls in the same time. This is the founding of the monastery at Skellig, Michael. Now, if you haven't been to Skellig, Michael, it's a trip of your lifetime. I mean, the island, wow. I don't even know how to talk about the consciousness of that island. And then there's the island in front of it, which is like an absolutely incredible guardian. Like this, it's like a dragon and an elephant and ascended masters in all in one. Like, and then the island Skellig Michael is like, I went to Skellig Michael on the solstice. It was a very special day and trip, and it was incredible in every sense. But it's just like you come there and the energy is just, it's otherworldly. It's like, you know, when they say the well was in another world, that's like Skellig Michael. It's like you come there, it's like a different world. And the consciousness that those monks created there is just, wow. Like they were just singing and praying and all day long. And the mountain, of course, was already sacred. There's already extremely sacred place, but they just, it's again man, right? What humans, we know it's a sacred holy place of the Mother Earth. So what are we going to do there? We promote the sacredness, we protect it, we encourage it. So we do things that amplify it. That's what these monks did. They amplified the absolute incredible sacredness of this rock. And so they were there from around, again, same time, right? St. Finian supposedly have founded that Skellig Michael as well. I'm like, oh my God, he goes from like the boy, the goddess, gets him the inspiration. It's the goddess speaking through the river, gives him the inspiration, go off and find some monastery at Skellig Michael, because that is a sacred place of mine. And I do love how these women speak. It's just, the goddess is just, she's just like, I'm in awe of her. And then these monks, they get the task, right? You have to upkeep the sacredness, you have to upkeep the frequency, the consciousness. And so they were there from 600 until 1200. And who gets them off there? The Vikings. The Vikings, I'm not a fan of the Vikings at all. Just to note that one. Because the Vikings have also, oh my God, the Vikings have like done so many raids on the Druids in Iona and Kells. I'm just like, they tried to burn down and destroy consciousness wherever they could. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of you guys. Anyway, but for 600 years we have these monks, and only later, actually in the 1100 something, this island was connected and attributed to Saint Michael. This had nothing to do with Saint Michael. These monks were in service to the Mother, to the Divine Mother. And you still find the church now of Saint Michael there. That came much later. And so we have to talk about the Michael family for a moment, because nothing wrong in general with the Michael family, but the Michael family, the name, the consciousness has been heavily hijacked and abused by non-benevolent forces. And the whole grid line, so we have Skellig Michael is the end of a ley line where we have places all attributed to Saint Michael. But actually, I've been to multiple of these places. Actually, these places were so sacred places of the Divine Mother. And you find at these places again, not as, thank God, the monks, I mean, seriously, what the monks did, like 600 AD, it's still working. They did such a good job protecting that energy, not even the hijacking of the collective that hijacked the name of the Michael, because as I said, the family of Michael, there's no issue with that, but there's a collective of non-malevolent energies that hijacked that whole concept, and then put a lot of control and put a lot of patriarchal energy into this ley line. And the ley line starts in Israel, and we do know the issues we find, unfortunately, around Israel, and then it goes via Delphi. And I've talked about, if you're curious, you can see a post I made on Delphi on my Instagram. I talked about Delphi in depth, about how this was a place so sacred by the Divine Mother and by the feminine, and how the whole consciousness, even in the mythology, the consciousness of Gaia was enslaved and raped and trapped there, and it's just it's still very heavy energy. This whole ley line needs a lot of clearing. At certain places I have still incredible heavy energy there. Not so much as Skellig Michael. Skellig Michael is amazing, but if you come more further east, the energy is quite heavy. I'm really curious how Mont Saint Michel is currently. I've been there 12 years ago, and back then the energy was still very heavy. Really curious how the energy is there now, because there is slowly clearing coming in. And what I got as a whole message also there on Skellig Michael, and this is around what is happening, why this whole hijacking. I urge you, have caution with anything associated to Archangel Michael coming out of the New Age. So Archangel Michael healings, his whole sword story, the activations, this generally comes, unfortunately, this comes from non-benevolent forces. Because his archetype, his persona, his encryption of the family Michael has been hijacked so heavily, and it's just, yeah, it's a lot of clearing work. And so what I got there, because this has all to do with the masculine energy, the healing of the masculine energy. And actually the theme we got in now at the solstice this year is all about the healing of the masculine energy. Because as I explained, we, the humans, the masculine, the Mother Earth, we are here to protect her sacred places, to build in her honor, to amplify her beautiful creative energy, to spread the healing, to also to bring balance into landscapes. Because we know from Mother Earth, there can also be, in a way, sometimes very erratic energies, right? There can be earthquakes, there can be volcanic eruptions, all of these things. So we also build in order to balance out the energies in certain areas, and to balance out drought and water levels, all of these things. That is what we are here to do as human and man. But we do know where the masculine energy has been in the last couple of thousand years. We don't know what the patriarchy has brought up. And so what we're going to see in the next following months, it's really a lot about a purging in the masculine energy. And the masculine energy is within both us, men and women. So for women, there is really this movement for us, this invitation to move again so much more into our healthy feminine, into that energy of the being really resting in our trust, in our connection to the Divine Mother, to God, being in our own sacredness, and then it being also in our healthy masculine, which means also that we do protect our sacredness, that we do have healthy boundaries, that we not move into chasing, into people pleasing, into like letting our boundaries, our sacredness, our bodies constantly be abused. And for men, for a lot of men, because they have, of course, much higher percentage of the masculine energy, there's a lot of themes around shame, guilt, also of what the patriarchy has done, also fear around the feminine. Because when the masculine really, in essence, loves the feminine and is in her service, and the feminine is so magical. As I said, she's a creative, free, magical being, and that can be, in some ways, the creatress. She gives life and she takes life. She's also connected to death, and that can be scary, and can also be scary for man, and her powers can be scary for man, and her divinity can feel overwhelming, and especially for the masculine, if they are not in their own worth, if they are not recognizing that they have divinity within them too. Because a lot of times it can also be that men feel like lesser than a woman, and they feel the guilt and the shame of what the patriarchy has done, and they try to shut themselves out from all the feeling, shut themselves off from the heart. And now the feminine, out of a sudden, like when women are their feminine energy, it does bring up a lot of emotions in men. And what we see a lot now is the anger that comes out, but the anger is really, most men only know how to feel anger. But actually there's so many emotions below anger, and this is what the feminine is bringing out in men, is that, oh my God, I actually have grief in me. I have fear in me. And so often it is the relationship between man and their father, but also between women and their father, because our fathers, even though they were there physically, so many fathers were not there emotionally for their daughters, neither for their sons, because they were not, when we even think of the last generations, of the war generations, so they had so shut down in their heart, cut off also from, we are now very cut off from Mother Nature and from self-worth and self-love, and so not being able to be there for their children in an emotional way. And that creates very often in a woman, but also in a boy, this feeling of, I'm not seen. I'm not seen, I'm not valued. And then you go out and you want to get from everybody else this feeling of being seen, being felt. And I think a lot of women right now, actually, they feel this, that I'm not fully seen. And it's a grief that we hold, that even Mother Earth has, because she's not seen in her sacredness, in her divinity. And then when we awaken to it, how sacred she is and how important it is to protect nature and her spaces, very often what comes out is this anger. It's this anger about, oh my God, humanity is so horrible, and what are we doing to the planet? But beyond the anger, it's the emotions that we need to connect to, that's below the anger. Because the anger is connected to the liver, and yes, anger is also connected to our creativity and to making change, but we need to transform the anger. Like, the anger itself is not going to get us anywhere. You need to recognize below that is deep grief or shame or pain. Is pain of not being seen and disconnected, and their fathers being very cold and all of that. So something that I noticed when I was on Ireland is that when we go to these sacred places, this is a masculine feminine thing. We sometimes can be very much in our masculine with what we want to experience there. We have some sort of an agenda, or we want to get healing, or we think we have to activate this place. You see that people leave all these objects, and I know very often it comes from good intention, that you see this in wells, that people leave all these objects, and then you see it also in the stone circles. And for instance, I bring usually only flowers as an honor, because I want to honor the beauty of Mother Earth when I go to a well. And when I go to a sacred site, sometimes with trees, it's like they don't always need like a couple of flowers. Sometimes they're just very happy to chat. they need our presence and seeing them. But like when it comes to wells, I really want to, because it's such a beautiful, soft, feminine energy, I want to recognize her beauty. So I do bring a couple of flowers, but it's something organic that is part of nature, and that is not disturbing energetically the place. But the moment we bring in crystals, metal, you see like people put all kind of jewelry and coins. These objects, specifically also crystals are technology. They have an energetic property that interacts with the place. But the place itself is usually energetically, unless, for instance, in stone circle, the stones are all fallen over, but then it has to do with alignment of the stone. But energetically, this place is already balanced, how it was built. Like the moment we bring in all these objects and think about, like, you might think, oh, I'm just have one crystal, but actually there's all these other tourists that bring, and then all of a sudden you have like 50 or 100 crystals that are being brought to these places, and they all have some intention in them, they have their own energy. I'm like, oh my God, the energy is just all over the place. It's not necessarily beneficial. So I invite you to first come, when you go to these places, really just listen first. Does this place actually need anything else in my presence? And me recognizing it, me honoring it. Because that is being in the feminine energies, being there, being fully there and being present there and feeling into the place, being with your heart there, before we have an agenda. a lot of what I said about the clearing, sometimes you also feel, oh, we need to come to a place and we know it's heavy energy and we need to do something there at the place to clear it. But actually, that's not my experience. I always feel like we are called to a place. Because there's memories, the place wants to be felt by us, but also because we assist the place. We are, right, the human, the masculine assisting the feminine. We assist the place in the clearing, for instance. Let's say a place does need energetic clearing, like how it's the case at the Michael Apollo line. But I feel the clearing is actually the inner work we are going to do after we come home. So at the place, generally, that's for me personally, I don't usually... It is really about being there, recognizing, like, feeling the sacred and listening to the land. But then I do feel that there's themes that are going to come up. Like the land, for instance, in that case, the land was telling me about the masculine, but it also has to do with me and my inner masculine. And I have this also with other people, that when they come back home, they will feel that we do actually, the inner work we're going to do is the clearing that's helping the place too. And there's inner work that, because we are drawn to the place for a reason, there's inner work that's going to come up, and it's around the themes that are also connected to that place. So whatever happened there historically, it's like the emotions that are also within us and the themes that are maybe in our ancestral lineage line, and that we are here to recognize. And often to recognize is already healing. In many ways, healing isn't so much about doing. Healing is about recognizing. And so, for instance, also Skellig Michael, I got this really strong feeling about, we have a lot of anger also towards the masculine. And I also carry that. And it's understandable because of our history, the patriarchy, and maybe as a child we weren't, maybe our father was there, maybe he wasn't there, but maybe he was there, but maybe he didn't emotionally support us, emotionally was available for us. And maybe later we had experience with the masculine energy that isn't great, but I was really like getting this message, like it's something that we need to work through, and we need to drop this intense blaming and anger towards the masculine, because we are not going to come into a balance if we keep on being so angry and so upset with the masculine. Upset, yes, because there's pain beneath, but the anger is now, we need to move that emotion into the healthy liver emotion, which is much more about the creativity, the guiding ideas. How can we actually work with this going forward, and how can we also allow the masculine to change and transform? Because when you're angry, you keep on having the story, it's always going to be the same, and but actually it needs to transform, it needs to change. So we need to allow it to grow and to change. So that's a kind of my thought that came up with the whole amazing place of Skellig Michael. Now, we talked a lot. This is all about Saint Finian, but that I want to talk about. We still have a couple of other saints that we have to cover because they're so incredible. There's so much richness in Ireland, and what the mother wants to tell us there through the stories of the important Irish figures and the sacred sites. So the next saint I want to talk about is Saint Bridget. So she was actually, even though now, like together with Saint Columba and Patrick, she's revered, but she was actually originally, she was really the main one. It was, again, it's the goddess energy. And Saint Bridget goes back to a goddess, Bridget, in Ireland. So the saint, actually, there's discussion now if the saint really lived in the 6th century, but actually when you listen to historians, they're saying, why are we even having a discussion? Because we have no discussion about if Saint Columba was real, Saint Patrick was real, and we have tons of evidence that Saint Bridget really lived as a person, and she founded her monastery in Kildare. And it is a beautiful, oh my God, her monastery, it is beautiful. She has a holy well there, which is outside the village, but I'm very certain that there was a well as well at her monastery because there's also a bell tower, and these bell towers, this is against frequency technology that was after the Neolithic times. We built a bit different, so but we did still the same. We supported the holy water, so we put frequency into the water. Same technology, putting frequency into the water for healing. Now unfortunately we have this technology also for non-benevolent purposes, but the frequencies put in are not the harmonious Trinity frequencies of God, of the God field. They are distorted frequencies. So we have that too on Earth. So we do need to be careful with all this technology. There's benevolent, non-malevolent. That's why we need to feel. We need to start really feeling into things and into places and into what's happening. But back then, I'm pretty sure those bells in those towers were actually really tuned to harmonious frequencies, and again putting frequency into the water for the healing, for spreading this energy around. And so this is St. Bridget. This is the monastery she built, and she also had, which I love so much, she had a fire temple there, because again, this is also the goddess, right, on our planet. She isn't just water. Also in Taoist and Chinese medicine, we always balance water with fire. We balance the heart with the kidneys our DNA, our Jing. We balance it all the time, so we do need the fire. That's why we do have got this pale down there erupting in Hawaii, because she's like, oh my god, she's spreading her fire, she's spreading the passion, and it's a different energy. It's needed. It's the light, also the light, I mean the sunlight. It's also at these sacred sites. Again, you have water and fire. You have built Neolithic, the chambered cairns, Newgrange, built on underground water vortex, but then you have the alignment of the solstice or the equinox with the fire, the sun energy coming in. And again, we have the masculine and the feminine, right? In Chinese medicine, water is yin, is the feminine, the fire is yang, is the masculine. So we have creation. We do need the man. So we're going to keep on being angry with them, but with like coming together, and you have so you have the masculine and the feminine in beautiful union, and then it creates this, you have the music around, and you're also like boom, it's like you could just feel it in the body. It's so amazing. And so Bridget had this. So she had the holy well at a monastery, she had the bell tower, and then she had the fire temple. And there she had the holy fire going all the time, because that's also, this is even from pagan rituals, like the fire shouldn't get out. So I'm very sure she certainly was living woman at the time of the exam, the Arthurian, that time of the spread of Christianity. And she is so much associated with healing. She's associated with all the wells. She has many wells that are dedicated to her name, many churches dedicated to her name and islands. So the healing of the waters itself. But a couple of more, but I have to go back now, because she's also going back. It's not just, I believe she was literally, so when we come to the incarnation of these different levels of consciousness of in the end, how much are you going to be connected in you? How much are you embodying the unity consciousness of God, right? And so I feel all these levels of consciousness of our 15-dimensional time matrix are here embodied in nature. But of course, they can also be achieved, as I said, here in us, in the human. So that's why we have these historic figures that we regard as ancient ascended master level. I mean, of course, we have the whole figures around the Jesus timeline. We have so many others. We have then these saints. But I do really believe these people cultivated within themselves to embody this level of consciousness that we do find in Mother Nature, but we also find in the cosmos, in the universe, in our time matrix. And many of these Neolithic sites also were built to resemble, to bring the stars down, to literally, so you have the Milky Way, right, the river, and then you build some structures that are literally aligned to a certain star sites, because we do always want to mirror, because we have all this consciousness out there too. And Yeah, so I do really think she was an incredible woman at that time. But before her is already in mythology the goddess, because again we have the goddess, and again the goddess Bridget, she is part of the Tuatha Dé Danann. So she again is part of this race that also Buan, and apparently they both come from the same father. So sometimes you wonder about these male figures. But nothing is known about her mother, so we do not know, was she a sister to Buan? Like, what is her relation? But they must have been related. They're all part of the Tuatha. So the goddess Bridget, part of the Tuatha, and she actually is really a triple goddess. This is where we see again. Also, you have, as I said, in Newgrange everywhere, you have the triple spirals. Is so like the triple consciousness, so important that we have this triple consciousness here on the planet. You could also see it in the Holy Mother, the Holy Father, the Child. But the feminine needs to be part of the triple consciousness. It's not like just in the church how it's like, oh, just a man. Creation cannot happen without the feminine. It's just like, hello. And so she was a triple goddess, also associated again to the cow, same as Buan. Associated to fertility, she was a goddess of healing, and, which I love, she apparently invented the very specific songs you sing when somebody dies. It's a specific kind of wailing, but it's not quite, it's specific songs. And again, here we have the frequency, the sound. Because as I said, sounds can move, sounds can heal, and we are here to, when we experience grief, we are here to also accompany that soul to have a safe soul passage out. There are so many ancient teachings around how souls, because again, we are assisting Mother Earth. So we have these goddess mountains who are passage portals, wombs, because a woman is a stargate. She has a womb. She brings in life. Life can go out through her. So the goddess mountains have the same. So they bringing in the souls, and souls are going out from there. But in order, we are assisting here as humans. So what can be one way how we assist is actually, right, we are creating rituals around death that help the ancient waterways, the ley lines, those mountains, to get the soul out intact in the best way for this soul to go on to be reunited with the oversoul, to be reunited with God, and to basically then go into reincarnation in a safe way. And so I love that with the goddess, and this is how we co-create with her, with the mother. And this is what we're here for co-creation. So yeah, this is what she also created, the goddess Bridget. And then, as I said, we have Saint Bridget, and also I forgot that Saint Bridget, as well as the goddess, are also connected. So it's like the healing, the springs, blacksmith as well, which I haven't made any connection. I don't know why. Anyway, but poetry too. And we know the poetry, it was so important in ancient Ireland and across the world, because through poetry we express from the heart, we live, we give further the stories of life, we create. It's beautiful, yeah. And now we have to come to Saint Columba. So Saint Columba, and we're going to come to the Book of Kells. If you haven't checked out that book, check it out. Now, Saint Columba, as I said, he was a student of Saint Finian, the man who also founded the monastery of Skellig Michael. And what I found so interesting on Skellig Michael is that they were saying those monks did not create any documents. I would doubt that. I'm just like, those monks might have written down some things too. But anyway, so Saint Columba, he is connected to the Book of Kells. The book, apparently, that was created in Iona, but also in the Abbey of Kells, which is an island. And again, there is a sacred well there. Really nice. There's not much left of the Abbey in Kells. Couple of high crosses. There is a bell tower as well. Again, we have a bell tower, we have a sacred well. the usual things. There was an abbey, and abbeys usually were also aligned to equinox and solstices. It's just incredible technology, or different time, different ways of building, but same thinking. We work with the mother, with the land. And so the Book of Kells, oh my god, the Book of Kells, literally, the consciousness of this book is beyond. It's okay on the official account. The official account is that this is the 4 Gospels of the New Testament. What is really important about the Book of Kells is drawings. There are many drawings that are similar to the art on the stones at Brunner. Because again, I think it's like a manual for the universe, for like high consciousness, how consciousness incarnates. It's like this whole energy flowing through this book is just so incredible, and there's so many secrets encoded in it. There's so much symbolism, there's so much consciousness encoded in it. And he selected for the 4 Gospels, for the 4 evangelists to be depicted in the book in with 4 symbols. Now the 4 symbols are the lion, the eagle, the man, and the ox. Now he chose this because this depiction, taking the 4 evangelists and connecting them with these 4 symbols, comes from Ezekiel. Now Ezekiel, very important prophet. This was 500 BC now. And Ezekiel is really connected to some to our ancestors, the orphan template of our DNA on our 7-dimensional counterpart planet Gaia. Ezekiel he was again like a prophet here incarnated, but as I said, these people incarnate, literally they embodied such high levels of memory and consciousness that they could embody like what the awareness we're having if we are like on the 7th dimension. And why did he choose those 4 symbols? It's just, I'm sometimes thinking, oh my god, everything is so obvious, but everything is also so encoded. Well, these 4 symbols for the 4 evangelists, they don't talk about the evangelists. This talks about the 4 main energetic grid systems on our planet, the consciousness that is here incarnated, that is ensuring the evolution of Earth herself as a living soul, and is ensuring her health and her well-being. And these are, so I'm repeating now, we had the man. First thing, the 4 phases of man. The 4 phases of man was created 26,000 BC by a group of, we call them Eyanis. Again, incarnated here as people, incredible high consciousness. The 4 phases of man works with certain land masses. It also works with megalithic monuments. And the 4 phases of man, connects into consciousness beyond our 15-dimensional time matrix. It is like a level of consciousness. It's coming in a way straight from the God world, and it's just it is incredible. This is an incredible grid system. The 4 phases of man, not fully active. It's not active yet, and it holds so much also of the Divine Mother, the sacredness. It's like when you think about us coming back into balance of the masculine and feminine, and into really holding Mother Earth sacred, like this consciousness that was held throughout times by so many groups, also by indigenous civilizations, by just different people, like known and unknown people. But it's just like, think of the whole planet being in that balance. And that is the four phases of man. This is like one of the systems that's always trying to ensure that Mother Earth, of course, she has a consciousness, she has her own evolution, that she is always homeostasis also in our body. Homeostasis is what always needs to be reestablished, and that also means for us that we have a balance of the masculine and feminine energy. That means also that we are not constantly in division, not constantly in war, that we are not abusing Mother Earth. And so there are these energetic structures, Templar structures, that ensure that homeostasis can be achieved all the time. This is a system of Mother Earth. Is, let's say, it is part of her body in a way that helps to create homeostasis again. So we have the four phases of man. Then we have the golden eagle and the great white lion, which are beautiful systems that again connect us to the origins of the human genome, the human DNA, because we are created out of the Lyra lion races, but also we also have the golden eagle like, and it's bringing also together the three different rays, the three different sound waves of the God field. And then we have the oxen, right, the last one, the blue oxen, which is a consciousness system that is located in India, and we do know how much knowledge comes out of India, the sacred mountains and places connected to India. And this makes me think of Tibet as well, of Mount Kailash, and yeah, of these four energetic consciousness levels that are incarnated here, structures. They also really ensure that within the sacred spaces of Mother Earth, we have these very high levels of consciousness incarnated into these mountains, into the waters, into the valleys and the trees. So yeah, absolutely beautiful. And this is the Book of Kells, is just beyond. And now, if you can feel energy, so the Book of Kells presumably now is being held in the Trinity College in Dublin, and you can see this book. I went there to see this book, and well, this is my personal opinion. This is me feeling into energy, and I am very psychic. Usually I'm right. No, I'm not always right, but I have a good perception. But anyway, you should feel for yourself if you feel so what is my message here is that the book that you get to see at the Trinity College, in my opinion, is not the original. Even though they tell you that's the original and there's this whole room and it's all protected and all the big show around it, but I was really like, what? Is this a joke? Because and the exhibition is nice. You spend a lot of money. It costs quite a lot of some money to go there, but the exhibition is informative. I learned a lot of things about the Book of Kells. You do see some pages, just pictures of pages in the exhibition, which is useful. But I did, because I feel into things. So I was like, when I looked at the pages of the Book of Kells, I got an impression of what this book must feel like energetically, because these books, and we had many of these books, that's why we also unfortunately had so many book burnings, because these books it wasn't about necessarily what was written on the pages, it was the consciousness that was ingrained into the pages through the content, but also the consciousness of the people who wrote the book and what they knew. It's like, think again, the Book of Kells. Think again, like coming back to the River Boyne, and Kells is not on the River Boyne, but it's not too far from it either. But it's on the River Blackwater, which had a total different name, a total different goddess associated to that. And I would love to know the story. I think she's also one of the Tuatha. But again, it goes back to that the Tuatha had this well, the well of Skellig, which is the well of knowledge. So the Book of Kells is holding the consciousness of all knowledge, of you just like literally having this quant illumination, and that consciousness must be felt. it must be felt in the pages. It's also the materials they used for it, the ink. And then literally I come to the room and I see this book. That's presumably the original. And I felt nothing. And I was like, this is a bad joke. This is a waste of money. No, it wasn't a waste of money. Like, the exhibition was okay, but I was just like, yeah. But thinking about it, it does make sense, because the people in power, we do know the people in power on our planet. We do know how much they love power for themselves and knowledge for themselves. And would they actually give a book that literally can activate people, that it can activate people's DNA in a positive way, that can give people awakenings? Would they allow a book like that to be out there for the public, for everybody to visit? Do they allow us access to any of the many objects they have and the many sacred places we have that do this? No. So I'm like, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by what's happening here at Eternity College. But it doesn't matter. It does not matter, because, as I said, the consciousness is held in nature. Yes, that consciousness that is in the Book of Kells is incredible, but you might as well go. So if you want to get at the consciousness, right, at the, not get it, because we don't want to get anything, but if we just want to reconnect, we want to reconnect to that level of feeling, being the all-knowing, understanding what this life is about, understanding the universe, feeling the Divine Mother and God, like the incredible, beautiful consciousness. We can go to the sacred places that hold this consciousness, like, as I said, Newgrange, walk around barefoot, visit Tao, walk there. Iona, Kells itself, go to the well. Again, it's not on Google. There's some signage. It's very hidden as well, but there's some signage in town how you can find it. It's kind of on the main road leading up to where the former abbey was. If the abbey is coming up on the left, is before that on the right, very small gate, tiny sign. Tiny sign, but you can find it. Go to that well, the Well of Columbia. That's really nice energy. Just go in general to nature, go to Mother Nature's sacred, because that the consciousness, as I said, it's held everywhere. We just have to acknowledge it and recognize it again. And yeah. And now I actually want to come to last but not least, King Arthur, because I haven't talked about him and her and his timeline, or that timeline. So all this incredible stuff is happening in Ireland, and later, actually, I mean, the incredible history of Ireland doesn't stop there. With all these saints who, oh my God, brought back so much consciousness. And then later we had some incredible, I don't think the medieval times were as bad as we think they were. I think there was some very high level consciousness going on in the medieval times, because even castles are oriented towards like equinox and solstice, and you're like, there is something here which we do not understand yet. And there were all these incredible medieval buildings in Ireland, and in some of the places also in, I'm going to not pronounce this correctly, Drogheda. I think it's Drogheda. I don't know. It's something like that. But it's the last. So we had Carberry, which is like where the Verboyne starts and where the Verboyne flows into the ocean. Is this town, Drogheda, which is close to the Prunaboyne monuments. And honestly, this town, now there's a lot of suppression of the energy, but in this town you still find the remains of some incredible, like medieval buildings, like old abbeys, like churches, like, oh my God. And this was one of the biggest walled medieval towns until, unfortunately, it was burnt down by a not so great character in Irish history who's done a lot of other bloodsheds in 16 something. But before that, I think it was thriving. There was prosperity, and again they worked with the river, and it was just incredible. Yeah, so anyway, I have not mentioned yet King Arthur. So we do know a lot about King Arthur as being part of the history of the UK. And certainly they spent a lot of time in the UK and had important things to do there, important business. But want to open you up to the idea that King Arthur's the plan that usually never happens with these missions, is that there was a plan also for the previous missions that are connected to this. Is obviously the Yeshua 12, the Jesus mission, and the Akhenaten mission. There was always a plan to establish a lasting empire that really respects the law of one and has like unity between the masculine and feminine, and has peace and balance and all the things. But usually that doesn't happen, or didn't happen. But anyway, so the lasting empire that King Arthur was here to establish was Camelot. And Camelot was potentially to be established in Ireland because of the sacredness of the Divine Mother and what she is guarding there in Ireland. And it didn't happen because we do know, so they most likely came to Ireland, spent some time, significant time there as well. But we do know that King Arthur was injured in battle and died, and Guinevere and her unborn child most likely were poisoned. So if women weren't written out of history, well, there was a lot also like kind of presented in very interesting ways in the King Arthur historic folklore later on. But so if women weren't necessarily written out of history in different ways, they were already, yes, killed in other ways. So yeah, but that shall not. I need to leave on a high now because this was not a high. This is a low of history. Yeah, this is. I think when I think of the mother and her grief, and the many times we try to. We not just tried, but the many times actually. I think we need to think back of the many times we came here to establish peace and balance between the mother and the father, and balance between the husband and wife, and balance between nation, and balance between man and nature, and us honoring nature. That there were incredible times where we managed to establish this balance. And there were also other times where this balance was destroyed again. But nonetheless, we are living now at a time where we are here again to remember, and to remember the sacredness of Mother Nature and the sacredness of these goddesses. And that's why I told you the story of Buan, the sacredness of our rivers and the wells, and the feminine as well as the masculine energy. Also the place that the masculine energy has in protecting this sacredness and in amplifying the sacredness of the energy we've been given, of the beauty and magnificence we've been given on this planet. So whenever you come to Ireland, just enjoy the beauty of the mother there. Know that there is something so sacred of her heart there, and that she left it there for us, so that we can feel it and we can come back to recognizing it. And with that, I'm going to leave you. Thanks so much. This was a very long podcast. A lot to say on Ireland, and I really hope you're going to visit these places, you're going to enjoy, you're going to be with the land, you're going to listen to the land, and just be with the beautiful creation, and know that most of these ancient sites were built to work with the surroundings, with the sacred mountains, the rivers, the wells, the valleys, the trees. So thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Follow me on Instagram at Echoes and Roots for grounded spirituality, ancient wisdom, and nature-based living.